G'day guys, welcome to Ask Woodford. My name is Christian Woodford. Now, Ask Woodford is all about you. Yes, this is all about answering your questions as it pertains to training, athlete development, injury reduction, rehab, or even life. We want to help everyone, and that comes from coaches, athletes, to the general population trainer, whoever it is. We also want to thank our sponsor, macironfitness.com.au. Mac Iron Fitness is the premium supplier of all bands, rollers, and massage therapy balls for Woodford Sports Science Consulting. So sit back and enjoy the Ask Woodford show.
I feel like there's so much more.
Let me tell you something, right? Training's training. There's so many resources out there. That's not the complexity. It's simple. It's very linear, one-dimensional. It's just like this is training. Right? It's been practiced over time, so we know what gets results. People make it complicated.
Yeah.
So if you can tap into a person, if you can tap into their mindset, if you can tap into who they are and to get them to absorb that and to do it well in the right attitude, that's where the winning's done.
But that's why I value what you know so much, because realistically, if you can't really tap into anyone, it doesn't mean shit. Like the training program's the simple part. It's actually seeing if someone wants to fucking buy into it. Do you know what I mean?
What's the coach mean? What does a coach mean? You know, coaching and mentorship and development. You know, this is all the attributes that people, they might go sports science, study, but they don't know how to connect to people. So you're not a coach's arsehole.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't get someone to buy into what you're saying and you can see and read who and how they're responding and make them want to change, or you can tap into that mindset to better them and to push that different level, that's where the champion's built. It's in here and here. The physical elements are easy to change, right? You just process and routine and repetition. But it's the heart and soul that makes someone a winner. You know, you look at, so I feel like the human behavior element and the soft skills of what we've talked about is what's really undervalued or not really considered at the level that it needs to be.
Scotty is a machine. I probably don't know how to describe Scotty. He's probably not human either. But if you could give us a description of who you are and give us a little background to everyone, because you have that much knowledge and that much ability in different fields. Do you want to just kind of talk about who you are and what you've done?
Mate, that's very kind. I'm a bit, you know, I try to remain humble, mate. I just feel like I've had opportunities.
Well, not today.
I've had a broad range of opportunities and experience, and I think through that, those processes, I've just learnt a lot, and so I've become really good at explaining and sharing those moments. But essentially, my dad was a physical training instructor in the military, so which is quite unique. He graduated as a physical training instructor in the military on the 20th of July 1980, which is the day that I was born. So I was sort of born into it, which is quite unique. I then followed in his footsteps and joined the military 17 years after that. Through his influence and stuff, very, very engaged with sport and training and athletics. I think I had my first gym membership when I was 9 years old at Gold's Gym in Adelaide. So I just sort of lived and breathed physical training and exercise and sport through my dad's influence. And, you know, with that, you know, a range of different sports. And then I got in the military at 17 and I joined as an infantry soldier basically. And I became a physical training instructor in the military when I was 20, which was the youngest physical training instructor in the Defence Force. So we run this tri-service course down in Victoria, Army, Navy and Air Force. And it's the one course and essentially, graduated there as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and pursued that career in the military for the next sort of 14 years. So with that, man, I had such a unique opportunity to be exposed to tens of thousands of people, hands-on physically training. So, you know, in the military, physically training people for operations and deployment. So there's a lot of emotional and sort of resilience training, ranging from just playing sport, but also battle BT, obs courses, I can go and so there's some really cool fun stuff, which is hardcore cool stuff. But through that process, you get some really deep insight to people and personalities and what people are capable of. And through that process myself, I've challenged myself. Even becoming a physical training instructor is really quite selective. Go through like physical, mental testing, psychological testing, and then you go through a selection course, and then you get rated, and then you get offered the position for the course, and then you get on it. It's pretty physical. And then once I was a physical training instructor, I was always just applying myself and challenging myself. So I've done the Navy dive course, the SAS selection course, and I was just a freak for training and pushing myself. I loved it.
What were those experiences like?
Yeah, amazing, but hectic. Yeah, so with all that too, got really clear insight to myself. I'm a bit banged up and injured these days. I've had a lot of surgeries and stuff, so that's the payoff. But I had a really, really unique opportunity in being in environments that have really tested me beyond what I could have imagined in my wildest dreams. But also I've seen other people in those environments. So watching people make that adjustment, developing resilience, training processes, recoveries, physiotherapy-based stuff. We work hand in hand. The position in the military is unique. Like I might train 1,000 trainees in a week and over in a training unit. And so from over 14 years in the military, you think of it, that's a lot of hands-on people. So you get a really deep. I guess it's probably one of the only, environments or employment environments that you just get such a hands-on with people.
Yeah, you just surround so many different people.
And so, I'm an Afghanistan veteran as well, being an Afghan and, a couple of other operations and things that were quite unique. So that's the first part. And then I got out pretty injured and banged up from my experiences. Couple of surgeries. And so then I started my own business in 2012, 2013. So this is called the Renovator. And it started out as a physical training, personal development brand. And I then created a franchise model, and sort of 4 or 5 gyms later, I've sort of wrapped all that up now. But
How was the success of that?
Yeah, really successful. COVID hurt us a bit, but post-COVID, I opened another one just out of spite and pride, just to go, we're back into business. But for me, that was just to get back to basics and go back to what I knew, get back on the tools. And I opened one in Sorrento 2 years ago, just sold that. And now I'm into more consulting and leadership and things along those lines. So through that whole Renovator, physical training, gyms and things like that, I was also consulting on the side as well corporately, but primarily with NRL football teams. And a really unique relationship that I built about 10 years ago was with Wayne Bennett. And so there's a couple of us guys, ex-military, a couple of ex-physical training instructors and a couple of SAS operators, and we would come in and run their pre-season camps. And so because we did it so well, because it was pretty much what we do, he's just invited us back time and time again. So with him, I've been involved with 3 football clubs, which was the Broncos initially, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and then I was very lucky for the inaugural launch of this new club called the Dolphins, which has just come into the NRL last year. And since then, because of all that, I've had an opportunity at Melbourne Storm. So I feel like I've got a lot of experience dealing with people and athletes. And I forgot to mention one. When I first came out of the military, I took on a role as an operations manager for an obesity camp. Yeah, that was the best. Mate, my biggest client was 260 kilos. We didn't take anyone under 100 kilos. And the average weight was probably 170.
Holy fuck.
Man, and that was once again just another opportunity for hands-on, different demographic. But, mate, it was all heart and soul. Physical exercise and developing programs are pretty easy in the big scheme of things, but it's making people commit to the process. It's about tapping in and building that resilience, but also validating and encouraging and empowering people to be better versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And so with all of that, I feel like I've got, I'm pretty competitive in the big mainstream world of experience. So there's not much that I haven't done, or I guess the quality or the intensity or the density of hands-on with people is really pretty unmatched, I believe. So
100%.
Yeah.
And if you had to look at each experience, if you could gather, I know it's so hard, but if you could gather like a really key learning experience from each different experience you've done, military, your own business, the obesity camp, the NRL clubs, what could each one be?
Mate, to be honest, it's a real common theme. People are people. No one's better than anyone else. People have really successful seasons and some people have really hard seasons. And the things that I've noticed, people are governed by insecurity, fear, self-doubt, comparison. Yeah. And doesn't matter if it's at an obese level or someone's 200 kilos, or I've got a really high-profile footballer who's played for the country and played state of origin who still has self-doubt and insecurity. So when you learn to understand it's actually just a human you're dealing with, but the context or the environment they're in still needs process, it still needs a particular way to go through it. And it's very similar in all those elements. Someone thinks that you train an NRL player differently to an obese person, very, very similar. Power the headspace, give them a process to follow, accountability, direction, guidance, tough love, cuddle sometimes, whatever the case is, to get that objective met. And so for me, I've really become good at personality profiling people. So I know how to tap into that person very quickly and give them that confidence to pursue what it is they're after. And I've got a high success rate in delivering that, yeah.
And with that, the personality profiling, like when you look at it now, like what goes on in your brain when you see someone? Like, what are the first things that you're thinking about? Different things, like how do you process that in your head, and how do you kind of decide this is how I'm going to treat this person, or like this is the pathway I'm going to go to make sure I motivate them?
Well, people are communicating all the time through body language. You know, it's quite common. People say most body language is probably 70% of communication. So you're giving me a message regardless if you know it. Yeah. So through my time and experience,
True.
That's fucking spot on.
Through my career, like, you know, mate, had like 100 recruits turn up in front of me. Like within 5 seconds, I know what I'm dealing with. And I know who's the ones I can push, who's the ones got attitude, who's the ones I'm going to smack, who's the ones I'm going to shape quickly, who's the ones I'm going to correct and address really quickly. And how I move forward for that is based on that experience. So generally, over every demographic of general population, there's those 6 profiles, you know. So there's the narcissistic ones, the attitude, there's the extrovert, the introvert, the one that needs a bit of a cuddle, the one that doesn't mind you calling them a CUNT. It doesn't matter, like every general population group has, you know, those personalities. So when you can tap into what that looks like, it's very easy to give them the guidance that they need at their level to get them to that next point. Yeah. And I can also know how I can talk to someone. You know, I think the most important thing for a coach is that your job is to empower, is to encourage, and to keep people accountable to the direction that they want to go. And a lot of people think that putting someone down or insulting them or being, you know, reverse psychology of, you know, making them think that we can, you know, it's about exposing them. It's about pulling the mask off and understanding who you're dealing with. Then your job as a coach is to empower them, to make them feel they can do it, that they're capable. You know what I mean? And so, or, you know, shape the way that they're thinking about themselves, because it might be in a way that's not constructive of a team. It might be an attitude. It might be selfishness. It might be whatever the case is. But you as a coach have to address those behavioural traits to either develop them more or to correct the ones that aren't being used in the right time. So I think for me, it comes back to that human behaviour element, just understanding people. Like the one thing I talked about with Wayne Bennett, and I mentioned this yesterday with my own podcast, that Wayne Bennett is really good at building relationships. He knows the people he's dealing with. So you've got to take that time to build those relationships, because then you know what you're dealing with. You know, if you don't have a relationship with someone, it's very hard to tap into their heart and soul, and actually influence them to pursue what they've set out to do. So,
and what's the way that you go about doing that? Like just building relationships with people? Is it that you get to know them more, be a bit more vulnerable with them, or just kind of tap into what just makes them tick?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, posturing questions and stuff. Like I said before, I've got this particular model, this leadership model, this sort of, once again, we can go down all these different rabbit holes. I think that you're sort of covering off a lot of different directions.
I know. Take it wherever you want to take it.
Try to do what I can. But I think the key in life, and particularly as a coach or a leader, you have to understand yourself first. Where are your limitations? What's your personality like? How's your communication style? Like, do a full assessment. Sometimes it's just a therapeutic exercise just to look in the mirror and go, who are you? And sometimes we might not like what we see looking back at us, so we can fully assess ourselves and we see these patterns of behaviour, self-sabotaging patterns of behaviour, self-doubt, insecurities, all these things that are actually limiting us from being the best version of ourselves. So that's the first thing. Identify where those weaknesses are.
For, like you saying that, right? Some people genuinely just at a point where they're like, I don't know who I am. So, like, what would you say that if someone was like, all right, I'm going to sit there and go, all right, who am I? And as a person. And then if they're standing there staring in a mirror going, I have no fucking idea. How do you break that down?
Quite easy, because I think honesty is key, right? So have you ever heard of mind mapping?
Yeah.
Mind mapping.
Just stuff like that. Like, just get them, you might have to probe some questions to answer. So what are your strengths? What are you good at? What do you like doing? And you can sometimes write those down. So what are your weaknesses? What don't you like? And mate, if you start posing those questions, people start to bring it up to the surface.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's just through that bit of intuition and insight to just pull that out of them that you'll get a pretty clear picture. If people are going to be honest, they know who they are. It's them. So most people will wear a mask because they don't want people to see those weaknesses and those weak traits. That's fine, of course. Sure. And there's, you know, we all wear masks. But when you're going through this self-evaluation process and you're working out how do I be a better version of myself, if you're not honest and open with yourself, then you're never going to grow. That growth mindset means you need to be vulnerable with yourself. You need to be real, because if you don't own the space where you're at, there's no way that you can move forward. You're going to stay in that holding pattern. And look, mate, everyone has issues. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. It's not even a bad thing. It's really cool, because what you learn to do, you play to your strengths, right? Play to your strengths. Always play to your strengths.
Yeah.
but there's some weaknesses that you can work on. So in that, it's not just, hey, we're going to arrive tomorrow. There might be some areas of your personality, or you might be lacking in discipline, or some areas of parts of your life that you can practically work on, right? Might be maybe through a mentor or your own coach. And so as you start to work on those character traits, and you start to develop those attributes that are going to make you stronger in those areas, well, that's a work in progress, and those things will start to grow pretty quickly. Now, there might be, say, for instance, in a coaching area, like physical differences, like, it could be shorter, you could be male, female, you could be, whatever, it could be, different ethnicities, in particular environments, that might be considered a weakness, right? So you might not have a big, strong voice. You might be a petite girl that just can't project as much as maybe a bloke that's been practicing at that, whatever the case is. It's nothing to do with gender, it's to do with the practicality of those human attributes that you've got. So how do you play to those strengths? So you wouldn't go and play to your weaknesses to make yourself feel more insecure in an environment, but you go, okay, well, how can I reassess this situation and deliver this content as a coach or whatever that's going to actually play to my strengths, minimise that exposure of some of those weaknesses, and then you position yourself in a much stronger position where people are going to receive you as a way more confident coach, and you're going to deliver in a position that's going to add to who you are. Because I say to people...
Because you're kind of then commanding the room.
Absolutely. And so what you don't want, like I don't think the world would deal with 5 or 10 Scotties, and I don't want another person that's like me. But the thing is, I add value where I add value, but in a team of people, like if you're the best version of yourself and you're the best version of yourself, man, you add so much value to an environment.
Yeah.
And when you understand that, you're not trying to be somebody else. I go to my nephew, go, if you're trying to be someone else, then you're robbing the world of who you are, because we just want you. So
that's your biggest gift, right?
Yeah, man.
Like who you are as your personality person and just your overall self. That's your power.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
No one else has that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that the world needs that. And so
Correct.
we don't need, and what happens in the realm of like influences and comparison and insecurities, we think that we have to be a certain way for society to accept us. But the problem is, it's like it's blending in the wind. It's like you're never going to make anyone happy until you're steadfast in who you are. You create your own values and you start going forward on your own path. That's when you're going to have the greatest influence, because you're being the best version of yourself. There's only one of you. There might be something in you that's so unique that you can't show the world until you start being your authentic self. And it might sound really cliche and box ticking, but it's so true and powerful, man, because the way that you can connect with someone, people are not going to listen to you if you're not authentic. Not authentic. Authentic. With authenticity. I'm going to say the both words at the same time. I did that yesterday. You know what I mean? So authenticism, being authentic is really key, because what that does is create trust, and trust is important in leadership and coaching. And so being real, this helps to build relationships as well. If someone trusts you and you have empathy towards them and you care, that's the foundation for any relationship, bro.
Yeah.
And so that's really important, I think. So look, once again, I'm sort of shooting all these areas, but
that's spot on. So what do you think the biggest weakness is that you see people? Is it that the fact that they hide or they try to be someone else? Is that the biggest thing that you see? Like when you look at coaches, people trying to be leaders, because obviously you're running the leadership course you're about to do. What's the number one thing you see people come in and then they're doing wrong? Is it the fact that they're being fake to themselves, or? Yeah,
I think that the worst thing you can do is try to set a standard for someone that you're not prepared to live yourself. Now we all, we're all our own worst enemy. There's been patterns of behaviour like we're self-sabotaging, it's like, whatever.
Do you think, though, it's not necessarily them being fake to themselves, but it comes back to them genuinely not knowing who they are and what they want? Or is it very different?
Well, there's both of those aspects. But I generally find, say, for instance, we got a corporate office here and we're going to make you a leader, right? You go, oh, my God, okay, cool. And so you just think that being a leader is a title and position, and you start to wear this mask of like, hey, guys, you need to be doing this, get to work on time. But if you're not living by those standards,
why would anyone else?
There's no professional credibility there. People are going to pull the rug from under you. You're compromising yourself.
We're not laughing because that's me.
No, not because of that. It's just so fucking true.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
Because once you lose that professional credibility, you don't have the right to speak, and people aren't going to look at you in a way of leadership, because you got to set the standard. Now, a leader's role isn't to be the best at everything. It's to create an environment that people can work together to get the outcome that company or organisation wants. Does that make sense? So leaders think, I've got to do this, I've got to be like, no, man, you've got to be focused on people. You've got to create the environment where there's this unity and cohesion, that people are going to follow the process that we set out for them. And people don't think about that. They think I'm just the management. Yeah, do this, do that. Like, creating. I'm the boss, but mate, I'm not living anywhere near the standard of what I'm setting out because I'm wearing a mask and I'm just doing the job. That's why companies have toxic cultures, because you're not creating the DNA. Man, being guided by your own values and having a strong sense of who you are as a person is the first part of being a leader. Don't be a leader if you can't do that. If you can't get your shit together yourself and be disciplined and have some substance about you that has strong values, then you shouldn't try to be a leader, because you're gonna rob yourself of, mate, credibility, and you're gonna hurt people and you're gonna disappoint people, and mate, you're gonna create an environment that's just gonna be toxic and it'll fall over you and get removed anyway. That's why everything that I do with Wayne Bennett and the footy and stuff comes back to character traits and attributes. What makes you a good person? Integrity, being authentic, discipline. All these elements, humour, like, or whatever. And so if you aren't going to work on developing those things, then you're not going to be an effective leader or a leader that's actually going to last very long, because it has to be real.
Yeah.
People have to buy in. The first thing, the part of this, I've got this framework I talked about with leadership.
Keep talking about it, yeah.
Is the first part's vision, man. So if people don't have a clear vision or a clear direction of where they're going, they're not going to follow you. So if you want to convince people to follow you, you have to be a particular way yourself, right? You have to walk the walk. People go, I see something that guy, I believe in that concept. Yeah, that vision or that direction, man, I want to be a part of it. And then when you get 3 or 4 people connected to that vision, man, then anyone else that comes to try to distract it, so no, this is the direction we're going, mate. Either jump on board or bugger off. And so vision is really important, but you've got to be able to sell that vision, and that comes through your own personal values and credibility. And once again, the next part of that link, or this I created a solar system. And when I said we never arrive, because the solar system's always working. All these elements are working together. So I might just focus on vision, but not the other elements of this model, and it all falls over. So the next part is understanding self and others, which we've already talked about, which helps to build relationships, but it's all underpinned by communication, and then it's guided by values. That's that ecosystem, or that interconnected linking rings, like an Olympic rings, are all connected. So I think they're really important. And like, if you look at communication, if I'm speaking to you in a particular language, say Japanese or Chinese, and I'm going hard, I'm giving it to you, man, all the verbal cues, the textures and whatever else, and you just got no idea what I'm saying, is that effective communication? No. Of course it's not. But I've told you so many times, but you're just not receiving it. So how you speak to someone, so there might be different, say for instance, I can be intense, and I can, you've seen me deliver a kick in the asses to football players and stuff like that, but I know when I can deliver that. But not everyone can receive that, because they might come from a domestic violence background, or they might have trauma attached to aggressiveness and things. So essentially that a person being spoke to might completely close off. So they're not getting anything that's being received. So you think that you're talking to them, but they're not receiving it. So it's not effective communication.
Yeah.
So vocal nuances, body language, all these particular things. Communication is only as good as the person receiving the message.
Oh fuck! Clip that. Just
if I've got two walkie-talkies,
so
I've got 2 walkie-talkies and one doesn't have batteries, but I'm talking to the line. Yeah, it's so true.
It's hard, because it's like, fuck. People don't realize it, but it makes fucking sense.
Yeah,
that's so good.
But remember, I was saying,
why do you think then some people communicate so differently to others? As in the way they approach a conversation.
It's learned behaviour. And once again, they haven't taken the time to slow down to realise, well,
I'm talking to this type of personality, so I need to change my tone or whatever.
Yeah, let's talk about just a married couple, right? Going through couples therapy because they're not communicating effectively, it's creating hostility, and there's all these dramas going on. That's why they have to sometimes go to get someone to help mediate this whole pull apart the conversation, pull apart the way and why. Is there filters? Is there walls built up? Is there resentment and anger towards each other? That's why they're not, because you might be going, yeah, but you, and it's like this wall up, and no one's receiving what the people are saying. It's just creating intensity and emotion and frustration. So
they're both on a defense mechanism.
Yeah. So, and this can happen in a workplace. You can have someone go, well, say for instance you walked in this morning and the boss is really just intense. He's had a full-on morning. He's on the phone and someone says, "G'day, how you going?" And he just completely railroads that person. Didn't mean it, but just out of his own self, just was completely disfocused. How that person responds, oh, he doesn't like me. All of a sudden that person, like, oh, he doesn't like me. I'm just like, he's an arsehole, whatever. I said, "G'day," he didn't say it. All of a sudden he's created this toxic culture, and there's someone that starts to spread that, right? Instead of saying, oh, maybe he's got something going on. Maybe it's not personal. Or maybe, hey, I said, "G'day, you okay?" Bridging that gap a little bit just to create those, bring down those barriers. But people are so quick at being offended, being on the back foot, making gossip, whinging, blah, blah, blah. Before you know, something so simple has created an environment which is just doesn't need to be there. And this is that toxicity in society that we see all the time. And I think this comes down to a lack of personal development in people and characteristic development and behavioural development. You will see more and more and more now, the development of what we consider used to be normal is just not there.
Yeah.
And so we've got so many moving parts of what we consider, it's becoming harder and harder and harder to be an effective communicator and really deal at a holistic level if you've got lots and lots of people. But the idea with any business or any sports team is you can control that. If that person that's receiving what you're saying and there's consistent hostility, and maybe that's your choice to find the person that can fill that hole that's going to be far more appropriate for that business so that direction can keep moving forward, yeah.
So you're trying to say that, number one, have the vision of what you want and then understand who you are. So understand who you are. Like, so say you're a leader in a business, understand who you are, your personality, understand the vision of what you want, and then understand how you're going to communicate that to the people, to different people, and know who they are as well.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So the leadership model that I've got is based, the first part is vision. Mm-hmm. The next link of the chain or the next solar system sort of planet or like the link within that group is understanding self and others, which then creates relationships. You build on those relationships, but it's all underpinned. Every one of those is underpinned by communication. So you got those 4 elements that have to be working together all the time. You got to be able to communicate the vision. You got to be able to communicate just understanding yourself and others and being able to be real about that. And then also that creates that context of building the deep relationships. So which, we can pull those things right apart, but essentially I think there's enough in that for most people to understand what I'm trying to say.
100%.
Man, it just comes, I think if you're in a position of a workplace, it's just like, how do I get some control back? Just take a big breath and just do just a full assessment. And I think sometimes you might well, maybe I'm the problem. Generally places are led, if you're allowing things to happen or you haven't been leading them properly, things are going to happen in its own right, or someone's going to take control of that group, regardless if it's an employee that you don't even know that's driving the place from a position that you can't see because you've allowed that. So having clear vision is the first part, because how can you have people following you if you don't know where you're going or they don't know where you're going? It's really important.
So honestly, you have to have vision, because I guess I've seen it before, and if they're up the top and they don't have a vision of where they're going, you can't even, it's not going to...
It's hard to then drive it.
Yeah, you can't drive anything. You have to, the first thing is you have to have vision, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a client downstairs for your business here, right? Have an athlete coming to you, you don't know what the purpose is. What are you trying to achieve? Is it just short-term injury management, creating some, strengths in some weaker areas of your body, or do you want to go to the Olympics, whatever the case is? It might be some type, So you got to tap into that. So every time they come to your session, you've got to be able to tap into what they're trying to achieve and make that connection, make them want to be there. And if it's training for a fight, if it's training for a run or whatever else, that's your vision, man. This is what we're doing. Okay, for the next 15 minutes, man, you're focused on what we're doing. We're starting to think about it. I want you to visualise.
Dangle the goal.
100%. Do your excellent ball. That's it, mate. That's okay. But you know what? There's someone else training just as hard as you. So you're prepared to give that extra 5%. The winning's done in the gym. It's not done on the day. How's your attitude? Switch on. You're not being the way you're fucking focused, mate. Reset yourself. Take a deep breath. You're not with me today. It's all right. We don't have to have every day perfect, but I want you to reset for a second and just let's go. The job's on. If you don't want to be here, it's not my job to convince you. So we're here, So tap into for me in the military is easy because it's legacy. We talk about what that Army, Navy or Air Force badge means. There's people that have bled and died for you before that. So it's easy to tap into legacy and culture and history. Same with the Melbourne Storm. You get down, you look at that breast pocket and you go, that means something. There's blood, sweat and tears. A lot of sacrifices have been made for that particular badge. You just can't wear it because, swinging dick, walking around the mall thinking, oh, yeah, I belong to this. But you got to earn that spot, mate. You got to make them tap into what that means. They've got to be part of it. Most people want to be a part of something with some substance.
Yeah.
So you make
something bigger than what you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what people want. It's tribalism, man. So people want to connect into that. Yeah. They want to be part of something special, but you've got to drive that and you've got to inspire them to want to be there. And there's people that won't, they'll fall short. So you got to weigh up what's the best time for me to cut them loose. They're going to drain from me even more. Or I go, hey, I can work with you a bit more, but you got to have a line too. If they're not coming to meet you halfway, then that might not be the right fit.
So if you've got someone and say that they're just not, they're not giving you what they want, they're not pushing, they're not working hard, they're not being motivated. Obviously, you have to reflect back on yourself as well. But if you do think that they're draining and that you got to cut them loose, do you have that conversation? And is there a point where you have to sit down and be full transparent and be serious? Like, this is what I'm thinking, I don't think you understand it? Or do you just think, hey, you just cut it, that's it? Or
Well, once again, it comes to the objective of what you're trying to achieve. Not everyone wants to be an Olympian. Not everyone wants to run a marathon, but they might just, want to come to you just to have some accountability to make sure that they're doing the correct exercises. So once again, you can create that environment based on the information or the direction that you're going, yeah? And that might be a completely more relaxed approach. Oh, that's awesome, man. I want you to come and relax. Let's just make an appointment with yourself. Put your phone over there. Let's just do some cool stuff. And, man, you're out here doing some functional movement. I hope you feel better. And then that's made your life a bit better.
Individual dependent.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But at a high performance level, there's a standard, man. If they want to be high performance and they go, I want to be this, I want to be that, well, I've got to hold you accountable to the level. I've got to build those attributes inside of you. You're not showing me the discipline that you need, mate. You're 2 minutes late. You stopped short 3 seconds before we did that interval sprint. That's not showing me. They're the 1%ers. Then you start going through that 1%er speech that you've heard and you start to challenge them on their behaviour. But that's what a coach is supposed to do.
Give us that 1%er speech just a little bit now. Just kind of tap into it a bit.
Well, the 1%ers are easy to do, but they're easy not to do. And the thing that people forget is that they're accumulative. So, for instance, if you get up in the morning 5 minutes late, you miss your breakfast, it's 1 or 2% short. You haven't been disciplined enough. So you might get to training late. You might not train at 100%. There's another percentage. By the end of the week, you might be 10% short on those little nuances, which at the moment, they didn't seem like much, yeah? But you're 10% short. Now, let's add 10 weeks of that type of behaviour and lack of discipline. Now you're 100% short. So you're now, at the end, when you're coming 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, it happened back at week 1 where you're 10% short, but you hadn't corrected those attitudes or those behaviours, and that's why you're not coming to where you should be. But it was well done way back there. But success is done the same way. So getting up early, not pressing the snooze button, yeah, it's 1% in the benefit. Eating properly, getting hydrated, going to bed on time, doing your training, having some diligence, whatever the case is. Those things are collective as well. So over 10 weeks, that high performance and that polish, bro, is going to manifest into winning and success at the end of the day. So the 1%ers are easy not to do, but they're easy to do, and they are the difference between being a winner and not. And that comes back to discipline. That's discipline.
Yeah. So I think I love that. Every time you say that, that's it's so good. Every time I hear it.
Shit.
I read a book, The Slight Edge, and it said the exact same thing, and that's why every time you say it, I'm like, fuck, that's... Did you end up finding the book that...
No, I haven't. No, but I've been... Mate, the 1%ers, I've got a couple of different versions of it, but the 1%ers, mate, that's the discipline level.
Yeah.
We talk about... I ran a bit of a development session for the Australian ice hockey team, men's ice hockey team, about 4 weeks ago before the Trans-Tasman. It was in their sheds. It was just off the ice coming. It was sick. I loved it. It was like just this dirty change room with all the boys in there. And I was like, this is mad. And we talked about the elements and attributes that are going to make them successful. I said, this isn't my words, fellas. These are your words. We started drawing it out of them. And one of them was discipline. I said, perfect. Actually, I had to draw that out of them a bit. But one of them was discipline because, mate, that's the benchmark for any profession, any personal development. If you don't have that in your life, we've all been guilty of not being disciplined, of course. But that's the first start. So if you write yourself a program, you should creating a schedule. Your job is to maintain the discipline to do what you've set out to do. If you take shortcuts, you're showing me that you haven't developed the discipline required yet to be successful. If you're not maintaining the standard, I say to my guys, the first place that you can practice discipline in the morning is by not pressing the snooze button. I never press the snooze button. It's just something that I've always done now, and it's in my mind. Because I've spoken about it so many times, I won't even dare try to press it.
Fuck, I can't do that yet.
I can't lose. So when it goes off, it's like you have a moment to win the morning. Boom. Most of us growing up training in environments where you've got to be up early, you've got to be up at 4:30, sometimes 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you can compromise then and you press the snooze button, you're already behind the 8 ball, and most likely you won't.
Again.
Mate, I never said, boom, it's just up. I grab my phone, press it, I walk straight to the shower, boom, I'm in. Mate, I don't even think about it. I used to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and pack march to work, training for selection, and like I'd 45 kilo, 50 kilo packs, pack marching 25 Ks at 2 in the morning. And if I left 10 or 15 minutes late, I wouldn't get to work on time. So I had this potential, so you train yourself with these measuring sticks to maintain that discipline, because if you can't do it for yourself, then, it's not our job to convince you. That's one thing that you've got to have intrinsically, that the ability to be able to discipline yourself. And that's the hardest thing to do.
Why do you think people lack discipline? Do you think it's laziness, fear, or just...
Or generally purpose too. So if it's, if you're not having to do something, if you don't have a clear goal or objective, then having just a disciplined lifestyle for the sake of discipline is sometimes hard, because there's no real requirement.
Because I suppose, sorry to cut you off, for the average person, like to create discipline, they still would have to find a purpose to continue the discipline, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at this just at a really general population.
Yeah.
What's the most most purpose that you can have in life is what at the moment? Because what would be the most? We all need to do it. What's the one thing that we need to do for ourselves every week?
Train.
No,
Right.
before that, most of us have to work to make money.
Oh, work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
money's probably the purpose that we all have, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, we think, oh yeah, so have a big bender on a Saturday, Sunday night, get up late, go to work and feeling like shit until Wednesday. You're not being responsible to that employer. Your purpose should be if I'm really wanting to be the best version of myself. Okay, I've got an obligation and I've got to be accountable to the employment. So we love getting paid money. We love that side of the equation. But what about meeting our objective of why we're being paid for? So, how many people come up to work on a Monday, have Monday-itis, don't want to be there? Imagine if you rocked up to work on a Monday feeling fresh, good to go, your attitude, your demeanor's great, man, the effect that you'd have on that business. Imagine if everyone done it. Imagine if everyone within that office could raise 5 or 10% within their personal behaviour.
1%.
Imagine that momentum shift within that organisation. The little things, but it really does make a difference. That personal discipline, just on a personal level, just to go to work, being at work on time. I hate people turn up 10 or 15 minutes late to work. Get there 5 or 10 minutes early. That's your job. That's what you got to do. Like, it's just professional courtesy. Get to job,
Because you start at the start. You don't get there, then start.
That's
you
right.
Start,
You have
there
an
early
obligation, so you have to be disciplined to get to work on time.
Yeah.
It's just like a no-brainer, but we
I feel like the no-brainers. Not everyone.
Because we're getting
think-
focused on the things that, we're focusing on the things that we want to do, but the things the things that make it sustainable and make us worth our while is what we say, and I think the discipline attached to who we are. So if you're looking at integrity, remember we're looking at character traits that make us the best version of ourselves. So if we're looking at, those attributes, which is discipline, integrity, honesty, all these things, like, they're hard sometimes because we don't want to do that because we like the path of least resistance. We want to do what we want to do. We love being selfish and being in our own focus and our own mind. But that's only going to get you so far, and we see that in society all the time. But imagine the people who are a bit more self-reflective, working on themselves a bit more, developing those aspects of their life which they aren't really polished in, and then having that influence within their organisation and other people are doing it. All of a sudden, you've got that momentum shift. Sporting teams, workplaces, schools, kids, whatever. And so, we're sort of going down another rabbit hole already, but I'm sort of trying to tie it in. It's just not, things that are going to serve us in sport and high performance. It'll actually serve us in life. I tell the footballers all the time, fellas, if you have this discipline and this attention to detail, this high performance mindset, and you change the way that you think and you're a better version of yourself, it's not going to just make you a better footballer. It's going to make you a better husband, son, workmate, whatever the case is, because they're human character traits that flow onto other things other than just sport.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you're showing up as the best version of yourself all the time, really.
Absolutely.
Which then you can give more to others and
Yeah.
service more to others.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So that's cold.
Well, let's sort of flip it over. So, what do you think? Let's go. Let's just pull the mask off ourselves for a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you reckon one of your biggest weaknesses are?
That's. I probably need to reflect. that
I'll go mine then. If
Okay.
you want to think. I think
I don't think
mine's
that-
self-belief.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, how long have you been sort of identifying with that? And give me an example of where you might feel that that's something that.
Oh, shit.
Actually, I got one now, but
You keep going.
Yeah. I think I've probably had that, to be honest with you, probably since a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your self-belief come from? Let me rephrase that. Has that lack of self-belief motivated you to be successful and do things?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's been something that, like, from a young age, essentially I'd been bullied and bashed, and that went on for like 6 months. So I lost a lot of self-belief, but then it's also been a driver because I've always been trying to prove that I can be better, do better.
Yep.
So it's also like a positive,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. It's
So-
funny you say that. Look, trauma and those types of negative experiences, and I can probably testify to some of these things as well, that becomes the fuel and motivation for you not to be in that position again.
Yeah.
I want to. There's a couple of things I want to share with you right now, and I want to challenge you on. I want you to visualize right now. What does the best version of you look like? Like, have a second. Like, you don't have to share it. I just want you to picture it in your mind, right? If you could, like, just work on yourself and the things that you want to do. Like, you've probably experienced it. You've probably walked in those shoes before. Like, I want you to just visualize for half a second what that best version looks like.
I feel like I'm like doing that work like now.
Can you
already.
see? But can you see what that person looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's who you are.
Yeah, gotcha.
All that other stuff is just little things trying to latch on you to pull you back.
Correct.
Those negative mindsets and those little negative experiences, you just got to cut those cords, mate, and just walk in that identity of who you are, because that's who you are.
Yeah, right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And how you substantiate that is how you speak over yourself. So for me, it's a Christian principle, right? It's a church principle. Like, they call it faith. It's like what you speak is what you believe. As you speak into existence things, like they talk about, just speak it out, believe in it, speak it and believe it. Like what you conjure up and what you speak. So when you tell yourself,
it's so true, because I suppose when I was getting bullied, for example, there was so much negative things said to me that I believed them. So it's the same thing, like, but now it's like, okay, teaching myself to do it in the reverse with all the positive things, so that then you believe it, that it's not even like a thought process.
Yeah.
You just know that within yourself.
Training your mind, training resilience is practice effort. Okay?
Yeah.
So when you say, you know, if I go, oh, I'm weak, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, you're compounding, or you're speaking out. I'm trying not to get another rabbit hole because I want to make another point here. But what I'm saying is that what you speak and what you believe is your reality.
It's perception.
It's so true.
Think of this, right? There's studies done. So do you know what the smallest molecule in our existence is?
No.
It's called a quark. They actually split an atom. You can research. It's called a quark. Do you know what that is? It's actually sound.
Sound.
Oh, wow.
So if the smallest molecule of our DNA or a being smaller than the atoms is sound, then what you speak over yourself is a powerful creator.
Yeah, gotcha.
Does that make sense? And so I believe, and I've seen it so many times, just like the other day, sometimes it's not about what you feel, because emotions are one thing, and your emotions can sometimes override your thinking, or you can convince yourself because of your emotions to think something else.
Yeah.
But it's called...
When you react so differently based off emotions.
Yeah, well, this is the whole thing about CBT, or this is cognitive behavioural therapy stuff. It's about not believing the emotion, because the emotion's just a feeling, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to understand what's the thought. So if you create the thought, I am worthy, I am good enough, mate, I am capable, I'm this and that. And I know it sounds a bit cliche, but you can go, all right, Scotty, I used to do this, stomp a mountain. Come on, Scotty, one step at a time. You got this, bro. Yeah, we're here. Let's go. Let's get it. Like, I've got this, man. I'm gonna eat this.
Do that when I'm running.
Yeah, because it's the self-belief
good.
and
I probably need to do that
self-talk.
more
But it's a practical tool for you to go, people go, oh, I'm beautiful, I'm this, I'm that. Okay, cool. But, like, you know, do it in a tangible, realistic moment where you actually freaking believe it. Like, no, you know, you
Almost like saying it with intent.
Yeah, because
so that you're believing it rather than just going, oh, I'm this, I'm that.
Into like actual moment, like not just be like, I'm beautiful, but like,
yeah.
like I can fucking lift this, or like, you know, I'm strong enough, you know. I can
well, the concept of faith is, it says, like, it's you're speaking into existence the things that aren't as if they are, but then you're creating that reality. That's what faith is. You hear it all across the time in different religions, right? Faith is you speaking into existence the things that aren't as if they are. It's a biblical principle. So we go into this process to start speaking who and what you are, man, you're going to manifest those behaviours. I promise you right now. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It's like, man, I believe in myself. I've got this. Back yourself, bro. Like, come on, man. And you do that daily and you speak about yourself. No, I'm not going to listen to that rubbish. That's a lie. I'm not that. I'm not that. This is who I am. This is my identity. And you identify with what that is, and you regurgitate that in your own mind, and you train your brain and you rewire yourself. You're going to live that existence. I promise you.
Yeah.
And it's so simple. It's powerful. It's just, we can all get negative in our headspace. This is the problem. We stay in our head too long. We give way too much time to this negative heavy space instead of changing the thoughts.
Yeah.
You speak it out who you want to be. You speak out the thought pattern that you want to believe, not just this emotional feeling. Yeah, feelings, mate, they come and go, but you speak out even in those heaviest times. I promise you, you'll change the way you feel. And it's a really simple tool, and it's a powerful reality.
I think it's so easy to get caught in your head sometimes as well and think like, oh, fuck, you know, if I'm feeling this and this is real, like, you know, this, that, what if this, that, where it's like, fuck, just say it, you know, you create your fucking life. Stop worrying about what if, this, that, like.
Absolutely. There's I spoke at the there's a Canberra Grammar School rowing team selection that was last year, and I was doing some stuff with the Australian men's rowing team. I went there to observe and watch their training and stuff like that. My cousin's the CEO of Rowing Australia, Sarah Cook. She's a gun. And I came to talk to the girls and boys on resilience. And so it was interesting because the girl's feedback was this. She said, we get people telling us to be resilient all the time. Stop thinking negative thoughts. He's the only person that showed us how to do that, how to practice it.
Yeah.
So one of the examples I did
It's
was
actually being given tools to
how do you
change
practice
it?
resilience? It's like,
Yeah.
well, you've got to be in an uncomfortable environment, but then you have to practice the narrative that you talk to yourself in that pain, in that moment.
Yeah.
It's not just tolerating. It's like, no, how do you go? Okay. And so this is a good example. I made everyone come up and go, righto, we're going to do a 1 minute static squat, right? And because, of course, it hurts. It's just annoying. And everyone's, and people are like collapsing and not falling over, but like quitting. And I go, okay, this is like a semi-professional rowing team. You guys should have more go than that. This time, as you start to have that white noise kick in and it's painful, I want you to self-talk and push yourself through that 15, 20 seconds of lactic burn and get through. If anyone stops or comes up, we're going to start again. Every single one of those people got the 1 minute because they practiced resilience.
Fuck, that's good, isn't it? It's actual. I guess it's funny because so many people say it, like, and I've heard it so many times too, but you don't realize, like, fuck, you actually need to practice it. Like, and that's how you're going to get better at it.
It's like anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you want
like,
to
how
become
the
a
fuck do you
better
practice it? I didn't know. Like, I didn't
lifter,
know.
you've got to practice that.
Because, like, I guess we all do it to some extent. Sometimes think, oh, yeah, I need to talk positive to myself, but we don't actually practice. Like, I probably don't actually go into enough times when I'm, when you're struggling or in an uncomfortable situation, say, fuck, this is what I'm going to say out loud to myself.
Yeah, and you might only give yourself 15 to 20 seconds benefit, but that's awesome. That's a win. And the thing is like, your mind is talking all the time. You can't turn your mind off. It's called white noise. But what's your white noise saying? If it's not what you want it to say, you create the narrative yourself by you physically speaking it out. That will soften that white noise, and then your audible noise will become way more louder than the negative noise, and all of a sudden you've got a positive mindset.
So, and it's funny, isn't it? Because what that tells me is if we do it enough times, it's the percentages of doing that again and again is what makes us like feel more positive, be more, believe in ourselves more. Like people think I either don't believe in myself or you believe in yourself. But I feel like from hearing that, it's probably just practice of, yes, sometimes we do and we don't, but if you can practice more often to be positive and talk out loud like that.
And the more time you position yourself in the harder times, the more times you realise actually the pain stops, right? If you've only done it a couple of times, you think, I can't deal with this pain. But if you're used to dealing with pain, you go, yeah, I know, at the end of this pain will stop.
So then your brain...
Mate, one of the things I loved doing was running hills. I was obsessed with I loved the pain of it because I always go, and this is the visualisation, the verbalisation for myself, on the other side of the hill is always down. And I used to go, the pain will stop at the top. So I'd get there quicker. And I just built up a conditioning for running hills. I'd leave everyone behind because I was used to live in a hilly area and I always train the hills, always run the hills or sprint the hills over time. And the narrative was at the top, the pain stops. And on the way back down, the pain goes. And so it's just a short amount of time. But instead of people get so clouded, I can't deal with this, it's too painful. Like just thinking that the pain's going to linger forever. But it doesn't. The pain stops at the top. So just put in a bit longer, you'll get there and that pain will go away. It's not forever. And so once you learn that and you go, okay, and you condition yourself long enough over time, you learn to deal with that pain in those small elements a lot further and a lot longer. And that's how you develop thresholds and that's how you develop resilience and become comfortable being uncomfortable because you're doing it enough that you're used to it.
Yeah.
So
that's, I guess you can put that into any aspect of training uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, it's all related.
That's probably the best tool I've ever heard because it's so simple, but it makes so much sense, isn't it?
Remember I talked at the start about getting back to basics, the fundamentals, the simplicity of stuff. I think we underestimate the power of those things.
Yeah.
What's your weakness?
For me, look, I have a couple as I was thinking about that, but probably one is trying to please too many different people.
People pleaser.
Yeah. Like, yes, I have my own goals, my own things, but at the same time, I try to please too many different people to make every scenario perfect, every single person happy.
And what's the negative fallout from that?
Well, sometimes then I'm affected because of it.
And burn out,
trying to do all that when really I don't need to do all that. So you burn out from it. It's tiring. It's a lot of effort.
There's a point like coaching. We talked about building relationships before. This is a really fine line for coaches, right? And I see it all the time. In an attempt to build a relationship, you try to expose yourself and make yourself really vulnerable to your clients. That's a really dangerous place to be in. So you want to have some vulnerability but you do not want to share with them all of the stuff that you're going through. It's not about you. It's a lot of people and personalities within those environments. You end up pulling the rug from under yourself, lose that professional credibility, and it becomes a gossip session. So whilst you can relate to your own experiences to help that person in their moment,
But it's for them.
mate, keep yourself, have boundaries in place. Remember, you're the instructor, you're the coach, you're the leader. And whilst we're building a relationship, and yes, you can make yourself somewhat vulnerable in some aspects, but you do not give of yourself. Do not give of yourself the point that you're draining yourself, because that you will not last 5 minutes. So you have to be very careful about the depth of relationships and what you allow to enter into those things. That's so super important. And so if you learn how to do that, you'll have a long life in coaching and facilitation and people. But if you don't, you'll become burnout, angry, resentful. You'll have broken relationships, and you'll be dealing with your own trauma.
Do you think that, to a degree, everyone at some point in their life is a people pleaser? And do you think that drops away because of, drops away, or it's less of a thing as you're getting older because you're not willing to tolerate certain things?
For sure. I think, connection and being accepted in community groups is really important for people. So, some people, because of their personalities, need validation. Their love language is, if I'm not validated, then I feel useless and worthless. So once again, we could go down another rabbit hole. But yeah, absolutely. Most of us want to feel accepted and validated, and that we're contributing or that we're valued, right?
Yeah.
Some are wired in a way more than others, and that could come from past experience, relationships, how they've been made to feel, and what they're craving in their lives. So once again, as an assessment tool for you as a coach, as part of your self-reflection moment, are you wired that way more? Is that going to be a detriment to your leadership, or is that going to be something you're going to have to manage yourself, or get some healing on, or get some more coaching and counselling on it yourself to deal with some of those pasts? But yeah, of course, we want to be valued and validated. But I think too, once you're established in your identity, once you know who you are, remember, once you're being the best version of yourself and you're not comparing yourself to anymore, that's when you're the most powerful, because you're not needing that validation to empower you.
Yeah.
When you're needing someone else's validation to make you feel better, to empower you to do your job, you're already in a position of you need some work.
Yeah.
So once you have that clear identity of who you are as a person, you're grounded and guided by your own values, you know the direction that you're going, that's a very powerful place to be in, because you won't be conformed to the things that are around you to please people. No, because if you've got a clear vision, right, and you're a leader, but you're only moving on validation, well, I don't like that, I don't think we should do that. And okay, why not? Well, because of this. And then you're going to get railroaded. You go, no, this is the direction that we're going. This is why we're going that way. And this is why. And you guys are coming with me because this is the direction. We're going to leave that alone, and we're going to keep moving this way. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense.
And I think that's, once again, we're coming down to this emotional personalities where we're governed by emotions and we're not understanding the thoughts. There's some really good professional work that you can do on understanding thought versus emotion. And this is what we call CBT. And I've seen some of my mates who are warfighters, tough and hard and killers. And now just the most grounded, softest blokes that I'd never thought in my life I would ever have seen them have connection into the reality of just being awesome, really rounded. But when they're pursuing that career back in the day of soldiering and warfighting, man, they were savages.
Just different.
And then having to train themselves outside of that environment to be normal. And to understand their thought and process and emotions, being able to connect with more women and children, because in that mindset for 10 years, some of these guys have had 8, 9, 10 operations, man. They're living and breathing this, intensity. It does affect them, and it affects a lot of their relationships. So I've seen some great work done on some great blokes who have got out in the military at a high level and are the most grounded, resilient, emotionally connected, with the most emotional intelligence I've seen out of anyone I know.
Yeah. I feel like as you get more self-belief too, I think it stops you from, you kind of create those boundaries with people too.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think comparison is the killer of your success. When I first started my business, people, have you seen F45? Have you seen this? Have you seen that? I go, look, I haven't seen it because I don't care, because I know what I'm doing, and I just want to focus on that. And I was really clear about my line. I said my line might be a little bit slower in its development, but I'm not after a quick fix. I'm building something that's going to be sustainable and substantial. I'm just going to anchor myself to where I'm going, and thank you for that. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm focusing on this, and that's how I thought and believed, man. And I still do. So, we're getting into a time and a place like this. This is what I'm saying. Like this element we're talking about now, I think is the most powerful part of coaching, because understanding people, but understanding yourself is a really powerful tool for any environment, because it creates just a different, atmosphere. And I think that's key. If you've got selfish, narcissistic people that don't give a shit about others, you've got a toxic environment. You don't want to be around those people. The world's full of them.
Yeah. How do you communicate with people like that? Like, because obviously you would have seen a lot of people like that before that are just full of themselves and different things. Like, how do you communicate? Do you even try to? Or is like...
Mate, I've been in conversations with people and I can tell by their body language they're not connected, so I just don't waste my time. I'll close off. They'll ask me a question.
What, would that be just like...
Yeah, like, ask me a question. I said, what do you do? And I'm like, I did a bit of this, bit of that. Or I can tell if someone's really interested. So, I will not expose or give any of myself if I feel like someone's not going to receive it the way that they need to. I can tell. I won't even bother.
Yes. So you fuck that.
I've had people ask me.
I don't know.
I've had people ask me about like my leadership style, coming on, maybe consulting in front of the company and this and that, and questioning me. I go, you have no idea about me, man. Like, you've got no idea to the depth of what I've got. I can tell that you're not interested, so don't worry. I've just sort of paid it off a bit, like just sort of closed up and went, no, it's no drama. You're wasting my time.
Yeah.
Because people have perceptions of what they think, and they don't know what they don't know. And sometimes I can read that. It's not my job to convince you. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yeah.
So I guess
the confidence in myself. I don't need
that's
validation. Mate. If you don't want to receive it, it's all good. I'm not offended by it.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's the beauty of it. Like that, once you build enough confidence and belief in yourself, which I think we're all on the path to doing, and I'm trying to do more of as well. I think you start to hopefully, in the future I can be even more like that, where you can just realize, fuck, if they're not even engaged, don't even waste your time. Like, don't even try to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put the effort in the time, because you're just fucking, you're wasting effort on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Man, I just think be real, keep it simple, and just have a heart for people. And if you have that in that order, you're gonna be successful, because people are craving genuine connection and that authenticity we talked about. I think that's what will set us apart. We can go bang, explode in all the social media marketing, but then you got to sustain that. And if it's not real, man, it'll fall over very quickly. So you can have every strategy you want for marketing and being a coach and developing yourself and running a business, but if you don't have those elements that can sustain that, you can do all the sales that you want, but you got to execute and deliver on what you said you're going to do. And that comes from this substance and this foundational stuff we talked about.
Yeah.
But mate, I'm going to have to wrap that up there, because I've got to.
No, it's fine. That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you for coming, Scotty. I'm
so much out of that.
I'd say that's probably one of the best podcasts I've ever been on. Like
awesome.
that, I just think it's so valuable, because I take so much from it. Like I love hearing it, and I find so much value in learning off you. Plus, I think it's just, in my opinion, it's the most important thing that we can all learn in our life.
Come on.
I feel like as long as I keep
agree.
coaching, I keep learning off people, I'm going to become a better coach, or like understand the S&C systems. But unless I practice, or most people practice actually understanding people, communicating.
Yeah.
And human
I've seen you grow, bro, so quick, man. When you first come on, and you were really hungry for information, and you were really teachable. And I gave you a couple of those bits and pieces about coaching the guys and not just delivering white noise. But if you're going to say something, say it what you mean. And mate, you can tell you've got a heart for people, and you've got a real genuineness. You do, and so you're enthusiastic for life and the love that you have for people, bro. Like, that's amazing. So you are being the best
people.
version. And I think that that's so unique. So you're going to be successful at whatever you do, bro, because it is real, and it's awesome. I love watching your journey. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, bro. And that's why even since I've known you, I feel like I'm fucking growing so much, because it's just simplicity of learning yourself, who you are, how do you communicate, like rather than just fucking speaking, speaking.
Yeah.
Just different things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people want to, because I really want you to share your course, if they want to talk to you, Instagram, share it, whatever, email, just say it now, just so people can get in contact
Scott
if you want them.
therenovatorhq.com.au, and I've just started a consultancy Instagram, which we're still developing. I've got a website coming because I'm just transitioning businesses, but it's _Renovator_consulting.
Beautiful. Unreal.
Thank you, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
bro.
it.
Thanks.
Awesome.